Hello, this is Father Lou Scurti, Friends of the Word, with a very special guest, Ed Lucas. Ed Lucas, Ed,
Pleasure.
thank you for having us in your home.
Thank you.
Ed is from Jersey City, and that's the least of his claim to fame. And he is a sports writer. He's been involved with many baseball events, and I know nothing about baseball until I read his book. And his book is Seeinghome, the Ed Lucas story. And you're going to be fascinated by many aspects of Ed's personal life, starting in Jersey City. And that's where we're going to start. Is that all right, Ed?
Sure, absolutely. That's where it started.
Reading your book, the one person that I think is a saint and your biggest supporter was your mother.
Absolutely.
And I know your family was close, but talk about her role, and maybe even go back further, describing the incident that caused your blindness.
Well, my mother was a very, very religious person. Okay, she was a very religious person. We would go to novenas and go to different church events, so forth and so on. And my family was a big baseball fan. We couldn't afford to go to major league games, over to the Polo Grounds for the Giants, Ebbets Field for the Dodgers, or Yankee Stadium. The tickets at that time, back in the 50s, were expensive. My father, he worked as a pressman for Alco Gravure in Hoboken and later on the New York Times. And I always said that my mother was a professional boxer.
Really?
Yeah, she boxed oranges and apples and potatoes for the A&P. And so that was one of the things that they did. But we loved baseball. We talked baseball all during the off season and the season.
Really?
And I would sit in my house and we would have on 2 radios and a television watching the 3 games, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Yankees.
Oh, you guys were dedicated.
Oh, dedicated is not the word. So the Giants were playing the Dodgers. It was October the 3rd, 1951. Giants were playing the Dodgers for the 3rd game of the playoffs to see who would go to the World Series. And the Dodgers were winning in the 9th inning, and Bobby Thompson came up with 2 on, and Ralph Branca threw a strike. And the next pitch was a high inside fastball that Branca threw, and Thompson hit into the left field seats. And the Giants won the pennant. And Russ Hodges, the announcer, would be yelling, "The Giants won the pennant, the Giants won the pennant." And how do we know that? Because some Brooklyn fan taped him. And he thought he would send it to him just to give him the business that probably the Giants are going to lose. And he sent it to Russ. Russ gave it to the 3-1 Club, which was for Liggett and Meyers, a cigarette company, Chesterfield, and L&M. And they made a 33 1/3 album out of it.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
And sent it out to all their dealers. So that's how you can still hear Russ Hodges today yelling, "The Giants won the pennant, the Giants won the pennant."
That's good.
But it was the first coast-to-coast game on television.
Really? Interesting.
Yes, the first coast-to-coast game. And Ernie Harwell was the announcer. And I came home from school, and the Dodgers were winning. And I was blowing bubble gum. My father said, "Stop that, stop that." My father worked nights, and he was watching the game. Big Giant fan. They hadn't won since the late 30s. And so we're sitting there watching the game, and all of a sudden Thompson hits the home run. My father goes crazy. Oh, my God, screaming, running around the house, yelling out the windows. He always prepared supper. My mother would come home from work, and so he was getting out the dishes, and he was so nervous he dropped the dishes, and they all broke. So I said to my dad, "I'm going out to play ball," and I grabbed my glove. And I went outside. I didn't want to be around when my mother came home and found out.
Oh, with the broken dishes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I ran outside and got a bunch of guys in the Lafayette Gardens in Jersey City.
Right.
And so we went out and we played ball in a skating ring. It wasn't a baseball field, but they painted bases on a blacktop. And that's how we played ball. and I was a left-handed pitcher. So I picked up my glove and went to the mound, took my glasses off and put them in my back pocket because I always felt I could see better without them.
Okay.
And I threw a pitch. The line drive came back and boom, hit me right between the eyes.
Ooh.
And that was the last thing I ever saw. I thought it was the end of the world. My only image of a blind person was someone standing on the corner with a cup and a cane, begging. And I used to feel sorry for them. I said, I could never do that, never thinking I would go blind. But when I did, that was my biggest fear. Standing on a corner with a cup and a cane.
Wow. And the details of that event, as well as what you're talking about, are featured in Ed's books, Seeinghome. Fascinating. So that was your biggest fear, that you were blind then, and blind people stood on corners with begging cups.
Sure, they would stand on the corner with a cup and a cane. What can a blind person do? Who would hire a blind person? You know?
Well, we've come to find out exactly
what can they do.
So what was your parents' reaction and their
Well, at first I tried to fool them, to be honest with you.
I remember that, right.
I didn't want to let them know, and I knew my way around the house, so I could get around the house. It was when we went out, and I remember my mother and father going for furniture, and my mother said to me, "Hey, Ed, how do you like this couch? You like the color? What color do you think it is?" And this one she really knew, and I had a doctor's appointment scheduled, an eye doctor's appointment scheduled that week. So when I went to the doctor, I didn't want her to know that I couldn't see that well. Couldn't see at all. It was in the Jersey City Medical Center.
Right.
And we went into a clinic and had Dr. Saradarian, who was the ophthalmologist at the time. He studied under Dr. Brophy, who was still around, but not as active as Saradarian, the young ophthalmologist. And so we went in and we sat on a bench, like a pew. And we would slide along as you were called, and you would go in. And I could hear people before me reading the eye chart. E, B, D, C, D, D. And the Lord blessed me with a good memory.
Wow.
So now I get in there. And Dr. Saradarian said, "Okay, Ed, how you doing? Oh, good." You know, so
you were just too embarrassed or afraid to tell your mother that you couldn't see.
Right. I didn't want my mother and father to know.
Right.
And so I started to read the chart. E, B, D, C, D, D. I went down like 4 or 5 lines, which I never did in my life. And he said, "Oh, that's great, Ed. That's why." Oh, my mother, she's, heart's beating great. Oh, you know. So he said, "Now, Ed, we're going to play another game. We're going to do it a little differently." I said, "Okay, what's that?" He said, "I'm going to point to the letter and you tell me what it is."
Whoa, snapped.
So now when he did that, I had to give in and say, "I can't see it, doctor. I can't see it."
What a heartbreak that must have been for your mother and you.
Oh yeah. Well, I figured I had him fooled. You know, I didn't want him. But you know, he checked my eyes, and I had to go in. And I had 2 detached retina operations, and when I was in the hospital, you can't move your head. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't simultaneously detached retina operations, one at a time, but they had sandbags next to my head, and I had to eat through a straw, all liquids, and couldn't move my head for a week or 2. And then when the other operation happened, the same thing. So, and of course, in those days, they didn't have the advancement that they have today for detached retinas.
Sure. Wow. So that was the beginning of the blindness, the real blindness in your life. Did you have any siblings?
I had a sister.
Okay.
And my sister was very supportive, you know, when this happened. And I remember I asked the doctor if I could come home. I was in the hospital from December the 12th to December the 24th. He said, "Go home Christmas Eve."
Okay.
So I went home Christmas Eve. And we were in Assumption Church in Jersey City.
Downtown
that was our
Jersey
parish.
City, yeah.
Father Hornack, the Hornack brothers.
I don't know him, but
And so when I was going up to communion, I said to my sister, listen, do me a favor. I said, when Father comes close to me, give me a poke and let me know so I can put my tongue out to receive communion.
right.
So he was coming down. I wasn't paying attention, listening where he was. And she gives me a poke, and I'm kneeling down
Right.
with my tongue out like that. It seemed like forever. Father was way down the other end, and she just... So she thought it was the funniest thing.
Oh, I bet you would.
I mean, she was a year younger than me. I was 12.
Yeah,
almost,
oh,
you know.
goodness. What was the illness that you were born with?
Well,
did
I
you
had...
realize?
I was a premature baby. In those days, premature babies had weakness of eyes, too much oxygen caused weakness of the eyes, and then I had cataracts, glaucoma, and Dr. Brophy took care of that. But then that weakened my eyes. I mean, that's why I had to wear the glasses.
Okay, right.
And
right,
then
right.
always felt I could see better playing ball without the glasses, and that's what happened when I got hit between the eyes.
Yeah, wow. The level of faith in your family, especially coming from your parents, it was just so impressive in the book. Talk about that a little bit. The role of faith in your life.
Well, as I said, my mother was very religious, and my father was a very religious person. And we moved from Jersey City to Weehawken in 1954. And he would take me when, on a Monday, they would have novenas to St. Paul of the Cross and St. Lucy and so at the monastery in Union City.
Yes.
So we would go to the monastery, and my father would take me and always have a relic put on my eyes, hoping that I would be able to see. And then when I lost my sight, one night my father and mother said, listen, we want to say the Family Rosary. And that's what we did. We knelt down after every meal, after every supper in the evening. Now, if we were going to a wedding or going out somewhere that we wouldn't be home, we would say the rosary before we went out.
Oh, wow.
So we wouldn't miss a day.
Father Peyton was founder of the Family Rosary. The family that prays together stays together.
Stays together, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes. And so we would say the rosary, and then I would remember people that were good to me and mention at the end of the rosary, please bless so and so and so and so, and the men at Alco Gravure and so forth. They used to send me different things, and then they said to my father, what does he need? What can lift his spirits? He said, he keeps on listening to these records, listening to the radio, and he doesn't have a record player, so they bought me a victrola in those days. That's what they called it.
Right. The victrola with the 3 speeds, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. 78, 45, and 33 and a half.
Right. Oh.
And
who bought that for you?
the the men that work with my father, they just wanted to give me a gift.
Isn't that great?
When I came out of the hospital, know.
Right.
So they bought that for me, and my parents would buy me records from time to time. And if I got some money, I would buy records, And I mentioned Johnnie Ray in the book because Johnnie Ray, I didn't know at the time, but my father told me that he was deaf. But
Right.
yet he could sing, and he was a big hit. And my father said, here's a man that, had a disability, and he did. You'll be able to do it. You'll be able to do it. And they kept on encouraging me you can do this, you can do that. And, of course, they knew how much I loved baseball.
Mm.
And my mother read in the paper that Rizzuto, the shortstop for the Yankees, who was the MVP in 1950 in the American League, and then the MVP, most valuable player in the 1951 World Series, he was working at the American shops in Newark.
Okay, we're going to stop right there because it's really it's a cliffhanger with Phil Rizzuto. I want to pick that up in our next segment.
Sure.
But I really appreciate. Where could our audience purchase Seeinghome?
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble.
Okay,
Barnes and Noble,
and that's his lovely wife in the background, who's not on camera, but she's in the audience right now.
Right.
This is Father Lou Scurti with Friends of the Word, interviewing Ed Lucas about the Ed Lucas story, and featured in Seeinghome, the book. We're here in his home, and we really, really appreciate your hospitality, Ed. And we're going to continue these series. We'll bring in you right up to Phil Rizzuto and the connection between Ed and Phil. Thank you very much, Ed. I really appreciate
Father.
your having us here. And let me hear from you, Father Lou Scurti at hotmail.com. God bless you.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
See, he does it like the professionals do.
It is professional.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. We're getting the guide from him.